Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examinations. We will try and understand some of the important articles that are important both from your pre as well as your mains perspective. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is speaking about phone tapping. What we will try and understand through this article is what is this concept of phone tapping, what are the laws in picture, who can be phone tapped, what is legal and illegal phone tapping, what are the measures and the safeguards that are put in place to prevent illegal phone tapping. First, we have to understand the meaning of phone tapping. When it comes to phone tapping, there are two ways of looking at it. One is the legal phone tapping, the other is the illegal phone tapping. Generally, what is assumed when it comes to phone tapping is illegal phone tapping. So what is this phone tapping? Let's say for example, I am calling another person. I might be a government personnel, I might be a private person, I might be a journalist or whosoever. If there is an entity or there is an institution or an authority which is listening to the conversation between me and another individual without the permission of the established authorities, that is what is called as phone tapping. So phone tapping is basically listening secretly to a conversation, eavesdropping through special electronic equipments is what is called as phone tapping. So what is phone tapping? It is an illegal way. Generally it is assumed as illegal. So it is an illegal way of listening to the conversation and ultimately taking the conversation out and banking on that conversation. This phone tapping can also be legal as well. What is the legal mandate? Legal mandate basically means that I as an authority or an institution am given permission by the state, by a law, by the rule, the regulations that are established by the government. So as I told you, phone tapping can be legal and it can be illegal as well. What is phone tapping in a legal way? As I just mentioned, there is an authority. Who are the authorities at the state level? What we have is the state police officers. So the state police officers are given permission by the law that they would be able to listen to the conversation of the people. Let's say I am speaking to another individual is calling me up. So if the state authorities have given permission, they would be able to listen to the conversation, which is called as the legal mandate. So at the state level, who takes care of the public order, who take care of the law and order? It is the police officers. So the law and order, the public order is under the domain of the state governments. So the state governments can give power to the police authorities where they would be able to phone tap a conversation, listen to it secretly, all because they have to take care of the public order and the law and order in that state. So police officers would be legitimately able to listen to the conversation, that is phone tapping, through some equipments that are present at their disposal. At the central level, once again, you have authorities which should be able to phone tap. Which are these authorities? What we have is the Intelligence Bureau, Central Bureau of Investigation, Enforcement Directorate, Narcotics Control Bureau, Central Board of Direct Taxes, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, National Investigation Agency, Research and Analysis Wing, Directorate of Signal Intelligence and the Delhi Police Commissioner. So it is these authorities who have been given the permission to eavesdrop into the conversation, listen to the conversation secretly, all because the larger picture of public interest steps into the picture. So if there is tapping that is done by any other agency or by an agency where that person does not have the power to do so, or they have not got the permission from the established authorities and the personnel, in that case it is assumed as illegal. So what is legal? Legal means they have the permission, legal means they have the authority, legal means they have all the permissions that is taken by the authority. That is where legal phone tapping happens. If the authority does not have the permission, without the permission of the relevant authority, if the eavesdrop or the conversation is phone tapped, that is what is called as illegal. Where do we find a mention of this phone tapping? we have one of the important laws in the country called as the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. Under it, we have section 5 of 2, which says, on the occurrence of any public emergency or in the interest of public safety, phone tapping can be done by the center or states if they are satisfied it is necessary in the interest of public safety. We did discuss about it, that in the larger interest of the public, they would be able to phone tap it. Which are those? Let's say sovereignty and integrity of the country, or security of the state, friendly relationship with foreign states, or public order, or for preventing incitement to the commission of an offence. If they sense that such things is going to be prodded, such things are going to be pushed by certain agencies as well as by individuals, they would be able to phone tap, listen to the conversation and prevent such issues from occurring. However, there is an exception that is added to this for the press. What is it? When it comes to the newspaper, the print media, or we have the visual media in the form of news channels, there are some exemptions that are given to it. What are those? Press messages intend to be published in India of correspondence accredited to the central government or a state government shall not be intercepted or detained unless their transmission has been prohibited under this particular section, which means to say that if there are these press agencies or press messages that are the correspondence of the central government or the state government which are attached to these agencies, such conversations should not be heard until and unless a permission is being given, guaranteed, or there is a permission guaranteed by so and so authority. Now the point is, what happens in case of an emergency? What happens in case there is unavoidable circumstances? Whenever there is an unavoidable circumstance, let's say for example, there is an emergency that has occurred, or there is a situation or a circumstance where they have to go by this particular authority that they have to ask the permission from, and they are not able to ask the permission from this particular authority. In that case, what we have is the unavoidable circumstance. Generally, there is a rule 419A of the Indian Telegraph Act Amendment Rules, which says phone tapping orders shall not be issued except by an order made by the Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of Home Affairs in case of Government of India, and by Secretary to the State Government in charge of the Home Department in case of the State Government. So what did I say? There is an unavoidable circumstance. In this unavoidable circumstances, you cannot always stick to the hierarchy that is established by the government. What if there is a terrorist activity that is emanating and we do not have any intelligence that comes from the intelligence bureau or from the RAW, or there isn't adequate information? In that case, they have got a tip or they've got some information that so and so activities will be happening. So in that case, do we have to go by the hierarchy? What does the hierarchy says? The hierarchy says that at the central level, what we have is the Home Secretary. At the state level, what you again have is a secretary belonging to the Home Ministry Department. So these people will have to give the permission to the authorities. Only after they give the permission to the authorities, one would be able to phone tap the conversation. But is it in all conditions, under all circumstances, under all parameters at all times? No, there is an exception. There is an emergency that has occurred. There is an urgency that I have to phone tap the conversation to understand, to bring an end to the illegal activities that are being conducted. And as a result, in the unavoidable circumstances, or let's say for example, there is a remote area where I'm trying to reach to the Home Secretary, I'm trying to reach the Home Secretary at the state level or at the central level, I'm not able to call them up. There is no network, I'm not able to connect through any other channels. In that case, where there is remote area or for the operational reasons where I'm not able to get the permission from the Home Secretary or from the Home Secretary at the state level, what can I do? In that case, what we have to understand is that if it is unavoidable circumstance, any government officer who is equivalent to the rank of a joint secretary, such permission will have to be taken. So in unavoidable circumstances, such permission can be taken, or in the remote areas or for the operational reasons where they are not able to, the rank of the Inspector General of Police, their permission would also be able to be taken, and only when an authorization is being given by them, they would be able to phone tap it. So phone tapping basically means that it can be legal, it can be illegal, it is secretly listening to the conversation through the equipments and the tools. Legal happens when it is being given permission, there is sanction, there is an authority whose permission has been taken. Illegal, when that institution or the authority does not have the permission to eavesdrop into the conversation. And in exceptional of circumstances, in unavoidable circumstances, what we can also do is a person who is not below the rank of a joint secretary to the government of India, who's been authorized by the Union Home Secretary or the State Home Secretary, he can give permission in the unavoidable circumstance, and in remote areas not below the rank of the Inspector General of Police can also give permission as well. And whenever such permission is being given, such permissions, or whenever the permission is given for listening to it secretly, why that permission is being given has to be in writing. So remember, all these are important because there has to be some check and balances. There has to be an accountability. Just a random person listening to the conversation is a violation of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Why? Because Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, as read by the Puttaswamy judgment, also speaks about privacy as well. So an individual's conversation cannot be taken up without the permission of that individual, but it can be done at the larger interest of public, and that is when privacy can be set aside, but for which you have to give it in writing. In fact, when given in writing, this will also be checked by the committee as well, and in case they do see that there is a violation of the set established principle, they can be summoned and asked for the details. So the law is very clear that the interception must be ordered only by those who have the established principles and the permission, and at the same time, when this particular information is given, it has to be in writing as to why they have taken this information. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, change the playbook, repatriate Indian children. At looking of this article, it may sound that this article is not important from the UPSC examination point of view and from other relevant examinations point of view. But this article is very, very important from your GS paper to international relations and also from cultural aspect as well. I will help you understand what is this concept of international relations and how it can also be linked to the culture as well. What exactly happens? Let's say, for example, there is an individual. This individual who is in India, who has been living in India, who's been born and brought up in the country, knows a particular way of treating his children. For example, if you do not eat at your home, what happens at your young age, or if you see you have a very young sibling or your cousins and their children, what do? In case the children are not eating, what they'll get is a tight whack on their backs, and at the same time they are forcefully fed. Sometimes you may not eat, a child is not eating, so what happens? You have the habit of taking the food in your hands, forcefully feeding into the mouth of the children and making the child eat. But this action that is permitted in India is the same action allowed in a foreign country. This is what this article is speaking about. So this article says that there are some principles that are present. These principles or these cultural practices that are present in India may not be acceptable in a foreign country. For example, there is a child. This particular child is not eating. So what do? I take a cane, I take a stick, I whack the child. Not because I want to hurt the child, but these are practices that are present in the Indian environment and the Indian milieu and the local circumstances. But if the same practice is practiced in another country, let's say United States of America or in Norway or in United Kingdom or in Germany, is the same culture accepted in a foreign country? No. That is where the article goes on to say that there are some practices in India which are known for its culture. For example, we all eat in our hands. We love to eat in our hands. That is the practice of India. Similarly, a mother will also feed the child with her hands. A father will also feed his child with his hands. So according to few examples, let me give you an example as to what's happened in Norway as well as in Germany, where feeding with the hands is not acceptable according to that particular society. And at the same time, a child sleeps with the dad. That is not an acceptable practice because according to few laws and rules and regulations and the practices that are prevalent in a foreign country, a child should have its own independent bed. Can you ever imagine a child having an independent bed, not able to sleep with its own father? But there are few cultural practices which are against the Indian practices, and at the same time there is a small mistake that has happened from the parental side, and the parent where a child falls down. At that particular moment, what would happen? Yes, the mother and the father would feel bad about it, but they'll take care of the child to the optimum level that they possibly can. What if there is a mistake that the child falls, that the mother has gone to the restroom or she's gone to cooking, and in such case the child falls down? In that case, there is negligence that happens according to the foreign customs. In India, we do not have the laws govern all these aspects, but in a foreign country, when there are laws, rules and regulations, where if these rules and regulations according to their custom is not being followed by the Indian parents, this child will be taken away from their parent, will be put into the foster room, will be sent to the foster service care, and ultimately the child as well as the parent relationship is completely taken off, and this child does not get any of the care and protection from her parent. Instead, this child is in the foster care home, and there is this relationship where there is a vacuum that is created. This has to overcome over a period of time, is what is this article all about. Let me explain this with some of the examples that have happened in Germany and Norway. In Germany, they have what is called as Jugendamt, which happens to be German child care services. What exactly happened in Germany? There was an incident. A child was abruptly taken by the Jugendamt, which happens to be German child care service. As I told you, there were these parents, as well as there was this grandmother who makes a way to Germany to take care of her grandchild. Accidentally, this child, who is about 8 odd months, accidentally is hurt by the parent, causing injury to her outer genital area. When she was taken to the hospital, authorities were alerted of what was suspected to be a case of sexual assault. So the minute they felt that it was sexual assault, yes, it is common sense and it is right as well that they are taken away from that particular house and they be shifted to a safer home, which is in the form of a child care service. Initially, the apprehension is that this particular child is not taken care. Suitable enough, right way to go ahead. But what happens after investigation was done, it was found out that it happened because of a mistake, and at the same time they also came to know that this was not an act of sexual assault, so on and so forth. So assault charges were dropped against the parents as well as the grandmother, and authorities accused the parents of negligence instead, and what they sought was civil custody of this child for termination of a parental rights and permanent custody of the child. Just because there was a mistake, despite these charges that were imposed on them, they were absolved of all charges. What are they seeking? They are seeking for the civil custody of this child, separating the mother, father and the child completely. The parents would not be able to have the custody of this particular child. So all the customary practices that this child should have been brought under, this child should have got the love from the parents, from her grandparents, is not taken into picture, because this child is now under the control of the German child care services. Just for a small mistake, this child is now under the control of the German child care services, which means to say that she is away from her family, which means to say she is not able to get the love and the support of her family, which means to say that the parents have no control about their own child's protection, and as a result, it is this country's laws, it is country's rules which is taking away the child away from her parents. Let me give you another example. We have the Norwegian Child Welfare Services, which is called as the Barvente, which literally means child protection, which is regulated by the Child Welfare Act of 1992 in Norway. It is expected to ensure that children and youth who live in conditions that may be detrimental to their health and development receive the necessary assistance and care at the right time, and to help ensure children and youth grow up in a secure environment. Similar to what what's happening in Germany, in Norway as well. There is a child, if the laws and the rules and the culture of Norway basically feels that the parents are not able to take care of the child according to the Norwegian customs as well as Norwegian rules, a child will be taken away from their parent and it will be under the services of the government. This is where there are two examples that I have to bring into picture. As I previously told you, feeding a child is a customary practice in India, and that's what we are. We are a country which are beautiful. We are a country, we have our own practices as well. This practice according to them may not be right. So hand feeding the baby is not right according to their culture and practices, and as a result they take the baby away from the mother. There was another incident. Child was sleeping in the same bed as the father, but according to them a child should have a separate bed, and as a result this child was taken away from the father and the parents, and it was kept under the custody of the child care services. This basically means that the own parents are not able to live with their child, and they ultimately end up in the legal battles, and for years, for about months, years, they are not able to have that relationship and bonding with the child, and as a result all the value system that they wish to inculcate to the child during the early years, they are not able to do so. That's the first major concern. The second major concern is this individual is only allowed to see the child only for about once or twice a week. Again, the bonding that was supposed to have been developed is yet not developed in this particular case. That happens to the second major reason, and added to it there are a couple of other concerns where cultural practices are yet not given to this particular child. So what exactly happens? There are these issues that is arising, and as a result this article goes on to say that what we have to bring is changes. What are these changes? When it comes to those countries, for example in Germany and in Norway, Banovich actions are hidden from public scrutiny owing to the confidentiality laws. When it comes to privacy, they are very much intact about privacy. They are also about the safety and security of an individual. Yes, the safety and security of the child has to be taken into the picture, but what about the transparency? Why are you taking away my child from me? And I've had couple of my friends also share some information with me in Canada and couple of other countries as well. Let's say for example we have the feeding habits. What if we are able to give the equal amount of food, whatever is required from our side, whatever we feel is right and as per our own nutritional values, but then if the weight is not increasing, the child is taken away from the mother and is put in the foster care service. So this ultimately means that all the confidentiality and the privacy that they are planning to continue with is yet not in a transparent way, which means there is snatching away of the child from the parent and is kept in the foster home, which is kept in the child care services. Where is the transparency? You are giving importance to the confidentiality, you are giving importance to the privacy, but you are taking away the mother away from the child. Why is this happening? Where is the transparency is the first question. In Norway, violence against the children is not permitted. Is it not violence in an indirect way, where you are taking away the child from her mother, from her father, from her dear ones? Is it not violence once again is the second concern. Children are placed with local foster carers without ethnic or cultural links with the child's origin. Whenever we speak about a child, it is also about the upbringing of the child. It is also about how a child is taught the value system with. When a child is placed in the foster care services, the religion, the culture, the value, the ethos that a child is totally different, and in that particular case the child will not understand the value system of the parents as well as the country of its origin. When removed from parental custody, children are entitled to care from the extended family. Now they are not able to be taken care by their parents, so it means they have to be given the extended family like the grandparents, extended cousins, so on and so forth. But they are in a foreign country. It is the Indian people, Indian citizens who are present in Germany and Norway. They do not have the extended family. So how am I going to take care of this Children, that's the concern. Children are separated and contact with parents permitted only 2 to 4 times a year. So there is no development of bonding between the parent as well as the children. It destabilizes the family but also makes the child insecure and permanently destroys the child's present as well as future. In fact, there are a couple of surveys that have also been done. In case there are children who are taken away from their parents and they are put to these foster care, they are brought under the control of many of the other people as well. So as and when they start interacting with the people, they also learn the habits of these people as well. Why should a child learn the habit of someone else when they are yet under the control of their parents indirectly? So it is the parents who have to take care of them, but instead someone else is taking care of them. Through the observational learning, a child takes the lessons from those people rather than from the parents, which can also be not good for the child as well. In order to overcome all these issues, we have had the Ministry of External Affairs. We have also have embassies and consulates who have been working with their respective governments to ensure that such practices and such principles are not adapted to the Indian parents. And at the same time, we have to work with foreign countries as well. Let's say for example we have Germany, or let's say for example we have Norway. With these countries, if we can enter into a treaty that such things need not be implemented for the Indian parents, an exemption can be sought, a treaty can be entered into, that can also be helpful as well. And at the same time, if Indian nationals are exempted from it, it will be a very good one. So investigation, in case there is a genuine case, in case there is negligence, that can be done up, that can be taken up. But in most cases it is not negligence, but in this case it is mere cultural differences, practices, the laws that are prevalent in the country which have to be reformed, which have to be changed, and a transition will have to be brought about. This, what is this article all about? So basically this article goes on to say that yes, in order to prevent child abuse, improve parental counseling and sensitize the society about the child, but at the same time it also means that they cannot interfere with the bonding of the child and the parents. If it is done away, if it is taken away, all the value system that is supposed to be infused is also taken away. This has to be changed by entering into a treaty or giving an exemption to the Indian citizens, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Manas National Park. It also makes a mention to the one-horned rhino. Where is this Manas National Park? It is a national park, Project Tiger Reserve and Elephant Reserve in Assam. It is located in Himalayan foothills. It borders the Royal Manas National Park. So you might get a question in your preliminary examination. There is one of the national park which borders Royal Manas National Park in Bhutan. Which is this national park? Manas National Park. The park is known for its rare and endangered endemic wildlife such as Assam roof turtle, hispid hare, golden langur as well as pygmy hog. Manas is also famous for its population of wild water buffalo. Because of its exceptional diversity, scenery and variety of habitats, Manas National Park is a biosphere reserve and is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section how many World Heritage Sites are present in the state of Assam. The name of the park is originated from the Manas River. The Manas River is a major tributary of the Brahmaputra River, which passes through the heart of the national park. So where does the name originate from? It originates from Manas River, which happens to be a tributary of Brahmaputra River, and this Brahmaputra River passes through the national park, which is the Manas National Park. These are the important factors. Then we have the Indian rhinos. It is also called as Indian rhino for short. It is also called as Great One-Horned Rhinoceros, Great Indian Rhinoceros. It is a rhinoceros species native to the Indian subcontinent. From the preliminary examination point of view, remember, it is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. Indian rhinoceros are grazers. Their diet consists almost entirely of the grasses. What are the threats? These are the general threats. For example, why are their numbers dwindling? Why is it reducing? Apply the common sense. One is all because of the human induced factors. We are the major problem creators for every biodiversity that exists on earth. We are not able to live happily. We are so greedy that we enter their homes, and ultimately we also create a basic in their environment, and then as a result their numbers stop dropping. So one is because we enter their area, we take away their homes, we take away their habitat, and we bring up agricultural practices, we bring in industrial related practices, we pollute their environment. The feed they would be drinking from a particular lake or from a particular pond, we also pollute that as well. That is the first major one. Then there is rhinoceros, which also have the one horn as well. We are such a species that we also want to kill every other species on earth because of the superstitions that are attached, because of the illogical things that are approached. There are rational things which are not taken into picture, irrational logic that is applied, where this also means that we are killing these animals for poaching for these one horn rhinos, the horn that we require, because of the superstitions that it is used in the medicines. These are the threats that are present for the one horn rhinos. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Shivaji's tiger claws to return to Maharashtra in November. We have Shivaji Maharaj, who happens to be one of the greatest warriors that we have ever seen in the Indian history. He was making use of what is called as Wagnak. Wagnak is nothing but tiger claws. It belongs to Maratha King Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Afzal Khan's powerful army was defeated by the Marathas using the guerrilla warfare, and this person Afzal Khan was killed by Shivaji Maharaj. How did he kill? Shivaji killed Khan using a Wagnak. What is this Wagnak? It happens to be a sharp iron made weapon shaped like the tiger claws in the year 1659. This happened when the two met at the foot of Pratapgarh Fort in the present day Satara district. So you might get a question about Wagnak. What is this Wagnak? This is nothing but a weapon that was used to stab Afzal Khan by Shivaji. It can be important from the preliminary examination point of view. Then what we have is Jagdamba, which was a ceremonial sword that belonged to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji IV, the descendant of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, had presented this sword, Jagdamba, set with diamonds and rubies, to Albert Edward, who was then the Prince of Wales and would later ascend to the throne as King Edward VII in 1875-1876. The sword is kept at St. James Palace in London under the purview of the British royal family. These are some of the important parameters from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next article. This article is speaking about what is called as the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme of international aviation. What exactly happens? We have the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement that was signed in the year 2015 basically came up with a couple of proposals. One such proposal is to bring down the greenhouse gases and also have nationally determined contributions. These nationally determined contributions are individual contributions made by the country. Let's say we as a country from India, we have our own nationally determined contributions, which means to say within so and so year, by the year 2030 or by the year 2050, this will be the emissions that this will be the amount of emissions that will be happening from our country, and these are the measures that we would be taking up in order to reduce the greenhouse gases and prevent the climate change factors from escalating. But when it comes to the aviation sector, despite having the nationally determined contributions, what happens in the aviation sector? It is one country which has to sign another. It is people who are moving from one country to another. So there is an aircraft which is moving from one country to another. So it is not within the boundaries of that particular country when it comes to the aviation sector. So in order to make sure that there is a check about the amount of emissions from the aviation industry, in order to cut down the emissions in the aviation industry, not the domestic ones but the international ones where it is from one country to another, what we have is called as a scheme, and that scheme is carbon offsetting and reduction scheme of international aviation. When it comes to domestic aviation, it is not covered under CORSIA, but when it comes to the international travel, that is covered under CORSIA. Aviation emissions from international flights have not been included in the international climate regime administered by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, as these fall outside the scope of nationally determined climate. Instead, these emissions have been dealt by ICAO, and ICAO has come up with CORSIA, where CORSIA is a global offsetting scheme whereby airlines and other aircraft operators will offset any growth in CO2 emissions above 2020 levels. This means aviation's net CO2 emissions will be stabilized, while other reduction measures such as technology, sustainable aviation fuel, operations and infrastructure operations are also pursued. So this means that through this particular scheme, the CO2 emissions, the greenhouse emissions that will take place, will be reduced over a period of time, for which adaptable technology will be imposed with respect to the aviation sector. And as I told you, CORSIA will apply only to international flights. Domestic emissions fall under the purview of another UN agency, UNFCCC, and are covered by the Paris Agreement. These are some of the important pointers from the preliminary examination point of view. So this is it for today. In case you are liking our initiatives, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. In case you want me to discuss any of the topics with respect to the current affairs, please put it on the comment section so that these topics can be discussed. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.